Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, air, restoration, and flood services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
A decision to redraw California's congressional maps may fall to voters in November. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Governor Gavin Newsom announced today plans to help win 5 additional seats for Democrats in 2026. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer says the move is a direct response to a similar Republican-led effort in Texas, backed by President Donald Trump.
California Governor Gavin Newsom announced plans for a November 4th special election at a news conference in Los Angeles.
Today is Liberation Day in the state of California, and as Senator Schiff said, Donald Trump, you have poked the bear, and we will punch back.
Punching back from the ballot box with the Election Rigging Response Act, Newsom called it a moment to stand up for democracy.
We will affirm our commitment to the state independent redistricting after the 2030 census, but we're asking the voters for their consent to do midterm redistricting in 2026, 2028, and 2030 for the congressional maps.
There was immediate backlash from Republican leaders locally and nationwide. San Diego Republican Congressman Darrell Iss's office sent a written statement from the California Republican congressional delegation. It said Governor Newsom is trying to grab power away from citizens on the commission and give it to Sacramento politicians to gerrymander their own districts. Our delegation will stand with the citizens of California and defend their rights as they stand today in our state constitution by opposing Newsom's ballot measure. Local state assembly member Carl Tamayo says he disapproves of redistricting efforts in both California and Texas.
What Gavin Newsom has announced is illegal. It's unconstitutional. There are 3 violations of the state constitution involved in what he's trying to do, and we fully expect to square off with him in court.
Phil Sines is a political science professor at Southwestern College. He says Californians authorized the creation of the Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission in 2008.
It's going to be a really interesting test to see whether or not they can convince enough voters, first of all, to turn out and also to vote against what they previously had voted in favor of, and that is having citizens redraw the boundaries.
He says this back and forth between Texas and California redistricting efforts could have larger implications.
While the governor and other state legislators may think that this will solve the problem, this will not stop other red states, Republican states, from doing what basically Texas is doing.
Democrats have not yet released their draft redistricting maps. California lawmakers will vote next week on declaring the special election. The November ballot measure would need a simple majority approval. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents conducted a raid outside the downtown LA venue where Newsom was speaking. It's unclear how many people were detained in the ICE raid. U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem addressed the operation in an interview with Fox News. She said she didn't know the specifics, but that it was aimed at, quote, getting dangerous criminals off our streets. El Cajon is one of just 2 cities in the entire state pushing back against immigrant sanctuary laws. Earlier this year, the city council passed a resolution declaring its support for President Trump's deportation campaign. But KPBS reporter Gustavo Solis says some residents are pushing back.
When I talk to people about what's happening in El Cajon, like the words fractured, fearful come up. And I think also just this feeling that there is some sense of hopelessness.
That's Viveka Ray Mazumdar, an immigration advocate with PANA. El Cajon is a city where nearly 1/3 of all residents are foreign-born, and a Republican mayor eager to support President Donald Trump's mass deportation campaign. In January, Mayor Bill Wells introduced a resolution declaring the city's intent to help the federal government enforce immigration law. The resolution was political theater. The El Cajon Police Department must still obey state sanctuary laws, which prohibit police officers from asking people about their immigration status or helping federal immigration agents. But the mayor's message was clear. El Cajon is either with Trump or against him.
Now, let me tell you what I think is really going on here. I don't think this is about immigration. I don't think this is about racism. This is Trump versus non-Trump. This is progressivism versus conservatism. This is the cultural war that we're involved in right now.
That was Wells at a January City Council meeting. At a separate meeting, Councilman Phil Ortiz argued that Trump was only going after violent criminals.
I want to be clear, the people who should be, someone said they're going to be living in fear. The only people that should be living in fear are people who are exploiting and terrorizing our communities that are criminals, whether they're citizens or not.
That rhetoric comes straight out of the Trump administration, saying ICE agents are prioritizing the worst of the worst. But it's becoming increasingly clear that undocumented immigrants without criminal records are getting caught in the deportation machine. Only 23% of the people ICE has arrested in El Cajon so far this year have criminal convictions. That's according to the Deportation Data Project. And the most recent data from the Otay Mesa Detention Center show that 80% of the people being held there have no criminal record. Mariene Branham, founder of a local advocacy group called Latinos en Acción, says the controversial resolution created the impression that local police officers support Trump's immigration policies, that they're enforcing immigration law, even though they're not.
So I just think it's really unfair to have put the police chief in this situation and to put the police officers in this light that they technically didn't deserve.
And the El Cajon police chief, Jeremiah Larson, acknowledges that community trust for the department has taken a hit.
We try and do, a lot of different things to help build the trust back, the trust that has been eroded for certain members of our community.
Larson says part of the problem is that people tend to lump all law enforcement agencies together.
It's hard for some members of the community to see a delineation between federal law enforcement and local law enforcement, or state and local. Even within the county, it's hard for people to understand there's a difference between San Diego PD and Chula Vista PD and El Cajon PD. Not everyone understands that, and that's okay. It's our job to make sure we communicate that with the public.
Chief Larson says the department recently brought back a community advisory board and will meet with members of the public on a regular basis. Meanwhile, the city council continues to pass pro-Trump resolutions, including one in March, supporting federal legislation introduced by Republicans in Texas trying to weaken state sanctuary laws throughout the country. And ICE continues to increase enforcement in El Cajon, already doubling the number of arrests compared to last year, including a high-profile workplace raid at an industrial paint shop. But Branham and other advocates have their own plans for the city council. Latinos en Acción launched a recall campaign against Councilman Ortiz.
We want to push for a new election. We want people to know who Phil Ortiz is, who he stands with, and if his district is mostly blue but is ignored when they come to these city council meetings, that's the reason why we're pushing for that recall.
The group is currently collecting signatures to force a recall election. They need 3,000 from registered voters in District 4, which is the southern part of El Cajon. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
Back-to-school season has arrived with a whole new set of anxieties this year. Coming up, how educators are preparing for the possibility of immigration enforcement near campuses.
Tonight, we are looking at that marine layer still coming back for us, becoming mostly cloudy as we hit 65 for the low. We are going to find that through time here, we're going to thicken up that marine layer a little bit, and we'll talk about how the temperatures will be changing in the days to come as a part of a pattern change just ahead.
Encinitas is moving ahead with two proposals to deal with homelessness. They would expand the city's bans on camping outdoors or sleeping in vehicles overnight. The first proposal would expand a nighttime camping ban to cover daytime hours too. The second would expand the hours for the city's ban on sleeping in cars. Right now that's illegal from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. but the proposal would start the ban 2 hours earlier and end 2 hours later. Not everyone was on board with these ideas.
These proposals may look good on paper, sound impressive on the morning news, and offer ego-stroking sound bites, but they do nothing to address the root causes of homelessness, economic inequity and hardship, or community safety.
Council member Jim O'Hara put forth these proposals. He said they're meant to help deputies enforce laws already on the books. The Encinitas city staff will draft the new ordinance and bring it back to the council for approval at a later date. That's Thousands of new homes could be coming to San Diego State University area over the coming decades. KPBS education reporter Katie Anastas says the university and the city are planning for more residents.
San Diego's community plans guide future development. The college area community plan hasn't been updated since 1989. City Planning Director Heidi Von Blum says it's become a good place to add housing.
There is a trolley line there, and the university, which did exist there in 1989, has really transitioned from a largely commuter school to a very vibrant residential campus.
30 years ago, San Diego State had room for about 2,100 students to live on campus. Now that number is about 8,500. University leaders say the demand for on-campus housing is still growing, and they say students who live on campus do better academically.
We know that our students have higher GPAs, quicker time to graduation, lower academic probation rates, so a higher student success factor compared to our students who live off campus.
San Diego State has 2 new residential buildings underway to help meet that demand. Together, they'll add more than 1,000 beds. Plans for another 3,000 beds are pending approval by the California State University Board.
What we're really trying to address here and to offer is financially competitive on-campus housing opportunities for our students, and to also address and meet the demand that we're seeing from our current student population.
The city is also planning for growth in the surrounding neighborhoods. A draft community plan would allow for about 18,000 new homes in the college area, mostly along Montezuma Road, College Avenue, and El Cajon Boulevard. A plan update allows the city to increase density. Building more homes would be up to property owners. A state assessment found that San Diego as a whole has to build 108,000 units by 2029 to meet its housing needs. Von Blum says they're about halfway there.
College area is one of several communities where we are looking at opportunities to accommodate that additional growth.
The city is hosting a Q&A session on the college area plan on August 21st. Members of the public can submit comments through September 7th. Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
Our Public Matters Partnership recently did a series on housing in San Diego where it is and isn't being built. You can find those stories and an interactive map on our website. Just go to kpbs.org/whose backyard. A group of San Diego homeowners is suing to stop monthly trash fees on single-family homes. In 2022, voters narrowly approved Measure B, which ended no-fee trash pickup for most single-family homes in the city. At the time, voters were told the fee would be about $23 to $29, but in June, the city council set the fee at $43 a month. Paul Kruger is one of the residents in the lawsuit.
The vote to approve it was so narrow that I think if people knew the true cost at the time they voted, they would not have approved it.
Our media partner, KGTV, reached out to the city's lawyer who says they have no comment on pending litigation. After almost 9 months away, thousands of sailors on the aircraft carrier USS Carl Vincent are back in San Diego. KPBS military reporter Andrew Dyer says the homecoming caps a busy 2 years for the crew.
I'm excited that I get to play with my dad.
8-year-old Isaiah Benaventi is waiting with his brothers and sisters to see their dad for the first time in almost 9 months. Their mother, Jasmine Benaventi, says it's the 3rd deployment for her family. The ship left in November, and this spring its deployment was extended so the ship could go to the Middle East. Benaventi says that was just one of the challenges.
The dates constantly change this time around versus in the past. So the only big difference is 7 children.
Baby Lucia arrived this summer. It'll be her first time meeting her dad.
We just had her in June.
The crew of the Vincent's been busy. They deployed for 4 months in November of 2023. Then last summer, they joined other sailors for a few months in the biannual Rim of the Pacific exercise, keeping them at sea. Then out again in November for what became 9 more months. Captain Joshua Wenker is the Vincent's commanding officer. He says this cruise featured a special passenger, a facility expeditionary animal, Captain Rudder, a 2-year-old Labrador.
He would spend the day getting his exercise in the morning and then traveling around the ship, seeing sailors spending time with him.
Captain Rudder joined the crew via the Mutts with a Mission, a Virginia-based nonprofit. Wenker says they plan on keeping him around.
It's great to have Captain Rudder on board, and the plan is he will stay with the ship.
Strike Group Commander Rear Admiral Amy Bauernschmidt says it's great to be home.
To San Diego!
Thank you for welcoming us home. Your continued support for our Navy and our sailors is deeply felt.
After a busy 2 years, Wenker said the crew earned some time at home.
What do I say to the sailors? That's an easy one. Thank you. Right? Thank you for what you do. Thank you for what you do for each other, for the ship, and for this nation.
Andrew Dyer, KPBS News.
San Diego is also hosting a special guest at port this weekend. The U.S. Coast Guard Bark Eagle returns and will be open to public tours starting tomorrow. San Diego's 12th port call of the Eagle's tour along the West Coast. It visited San Diego last week for the first time since 2008. Tours are free and will be held from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Friday through Sunday.
I'm Jeff Bennett. Tonight on the NewsHour, what Russia aims to get out of tomorrow's meeting between Presidents Trump and Putin. That's at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
As students head back to class this week, parents and students may notice classes are getting smaller in most districts. Public schools in San Diego County have lost about 27,000 students over the past decade. The largest district, San Diego Unified, says it's lost almost 10,000 students since the 2017-2018 school year. Fewer students means less funding. It's a problem schools have been trying to solve for years.
Social emotional wellness, not just learning, but are the students well? Are they loved? When they come on campus, do they feel like they belong? Are we eliminating bullying? And frankly, if we get that right, kids are going to come, they're going to choose the public option.
And on the other hand, enrollment in some charter schools has been surging. While they're also publicly funded, they often provide more options like language immersion programs, online classes, and better college prep. As schools around the country return to session, they also begin to grapple again with the fear of immigration enforcement. Here's Brian Abel with how school districts are preparing.
For teachers, staff, and students in Los Angeles, the start of this school year is different. Educators say they're having to create safe passage plans for students to protect them from potential immigration enforcement actions by ICE agents.
I'm going to be out on the street right outside the school, making sure that students can get there safely.
The fear from LA area school staff exacerbated the week classes began when the superintendent said a teenage boy with disabilities was pulled from a car and handcuffed outside a high school. Some agents drawing their guns during the incident that ICE says was a case of mistaken identity. The fear extends well beyond Southern California, though.
Especially the Latino communities, the immigrant communities, because of what we've seen, since this administration took over.
Last school year, the Trump administration rescinded a long-standing sensitive locations policy that limited ICE's actions at schools, churches, and hospitals, leading to ICE raids at campuses across the country. Now, teachers' unions are training educators to support students and families, focusing on legal rights and safety protocols. All of this adding another layer to the burden of teachers.
Educators will protect students, whether it's against a gunman or a false arrest or kidnapping.
In Washington, Brian Abel reporting.
In a world where everything is disposable, it's sometimes hard to keep history from the wrecking ball, but every once in a while, a building is connected to so many memories that it has to be preserved. That's what happened at one place in our county, as Ken Kramer shows us in this story about San Diego.
Aerial photograph in San Marcos sometime after 1950, and you see that building in the lower left there? That was Fred Williams' Square Dance Barn.
Because when I was in grade school, that's what we called it, and that's where we came, and we actually square danced and learned to do the round dances and maybe the Virginia reel and the bunny hop and all kinds of things like that.
Gas station owner up on Mission Road is what Fred Williams was. And then in 1950, he and his wife had this barn built for dances. Here's a picture of what it used to look like. But really, it was used for a lot more than just dances. Mary Williams, same last name but no relation. Here's Mary at her 8th grade graduation in a place that she says was all made up inside to look like, well, a barn.
The different horse bridles and the collars and all these things hanging from the rafters and in the decorations, and here we were trying to, you know, wear our prom dresses.
For a couple of generations of San Marcos kids and their parents, the barn was where social events happened, where you danced on the pecan floor under the western chandeliers. But if you go to where the barn was today, there is the San Marcos City Hall. So is that it? All gone? No more? No, take a look. That barn was first purchased by the city and then moved. They had to cut it into pieces, but they moved it to Walnut Grove Park. And so now, look at this. Fred Williams' old barn, wood full of knotholes, same chandeliers, same polished floor that over the years saw a few proper proms, so many do-si-dos, probably some I-dos.
It was a social place, very social.
You wonder if old places can have new life. Well, here you are, dancing well into its second half century now. San Marcos wasn't about to let Fred Williams' barn die, and that makes for a happy ending to this story about San Diego.
You can watch a half hour of Ken Kramer's stories about San Diego tonight at 8 right here on KPBS.
Well, it's certainly been a pretty interesting summer, and we've kept things fairly quiet, and we'll continue to do that as we go through time here. Cooler as we trend into the weekend. As part of a pattern shift across the western U.S., we're also talking about a little bit of a thicker marine layer coming in as we gear up for a subtle warming trend into next week. No big-time heat coming through, so that's some good news, at least not as of now. Let's take you to the numbers for tonight. 65 for the low in the city. As you look towards Chula Vista, we're at 63. Borrego Springs back into the lower 70s. So we will find those numbers coming down substantially, marine layer coming through. But part of the thing that's changed across the western U.S. has been this pattern change here. Big pocket of cool air venturing into the northwest for our friends in Seattle. They'll be getting rain, which is unusual. We don't typically get it during August, so this is a little bit of a rarity here. We also still have the monsoonal moisture, which basically means for our region, we really won't be overly high. It's also going to help to knock down some of the numbers a little bit. So we had the 71 for the high as we head through tomorrow, and as you work your way towards Oceanside, we're at 76. Borrego Springs coming in at 103, while Mount Laguna holds on to 72 for the afternoon. Take a look at the numbers here, and like I said, the weekend kind of starting off on a cooler note. The next 2 days here, tomorrow into Saturday, really pretty nice sunshine out there as we go through the afternoon, and temperatures then back into the upper 70s for the coastal areas by the time we get into Tuesday. So there is that warming trend. It's a little more pronounced for our inland communities, where we start in the upper 70s tomorrow, back to the lower 80s for the weekend, and then mid 80s for early next week. Mountain communities will be in the 60s to start off the weekend. We go back into the middle and upper 70s even as we head towards Tuesday. So there's some real warmth trying to push in there. And for our desert communities, not much variation in the numbers, but we should ease off some of the real heat as we head through Saturday. Ultimately, those still stay in the triple digits. For KPBS News, I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Melissa Constanzer.
We know San Diego is known as America's finest city for many reasons. Some world-class beaches, an amazing culinary scene, and great entertainment. But now there might be one more thing to add to the list. There is a contest going on for America's best public restroom, and a San Diego site is a contender. KPBS reporter John Carroll went to Mission Bay to check it out.
Just steps from the sand of Tecolote Shores, a stone's throw from the children's playground, one finds a place of rest and relief, a place to take care of business.
We build prefabricated restroom buildings for parks nationwide.
That's Chad Kaufman. He's president of the Northern Nevada-based Public Restroom Company. His company has built a number of public restrooms in San Diego parks and on beaches, but he's especially proud of Tecolote Shores.
And I was fortunate enough to work with Schmidt Design Group, and we together kind of came up with this design. The butterfly roof is atypical. It has sort of a nautical themed exterior, kind of fits the Mission Bay aesthetic.
This pristine potty place has more than just toilets and sinks. There's a rinse-off shower for every part of folks, short and tall. Okay, feet, check. Short, check. Oh, tall, check. Cool enough, but Kaufman faces some stiff competition for the best restroom crown from 10 other contenders, and they're anything but crappy. There's this at Pier 17 in New York City, a bit austere. This koi-themed toilette at Tatsu in Dallas, fishy. And on the fussy side, the restrooms at Little America in Salt Lake City. But if the voters for top restroom are anything like Jerry and Alice Weiner, Kaufman might just be the first to cross the fecal finish line.
Oh, I'm honored to be able to use one of the top 10 restrooms in the U.S.
Oh, I think this is a great bathroom. Usually when we come here, I wait to come to this one because there's many restrooms along here. But this one is new, nice.
Ah, but are the stalls stinky? No. Except in this one. Be glad in this case you don't have smell-o-vision, because in there, it's antiseptically clean. As for the contest, you've got until 1 minute before noon tomorrow to vote at bestrestroom.com/vote. At this point, Chad Kaufman is feeling bullish on his bathroom.
The cutesy, cool little restrooms in restaurants and bars and venues, yeah, that's cool. But this is something that the public really uses, and I'm hoping that helps a little bit.
So, dear viewers, listeners, and readers, if you're fond of lovely latrines, go ahead and vote for San Diego's entry. But just one more thing. Don't call it a John. John Carroll, KPBS News.
Oh, John, I don't even know what to say. Great story. You can find tonight's stories on our website, including that one, kpbs.org. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Travolsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, air, restoration, and flood services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.